எதன் கண்ணே நிலையாகி இருந்திடும் இவ்வுலகமெல்லாம் எதனதெல்லாம் எதனின்று அனைத்துலகும் எழுமோ மற்றிவையாவும் எதன் பொருட்டாம் எதனால் இவ்வையமெல்லாம் எழுந்திடும் இவ்வெல்லாமும் எதுவே ஆகும் அது தானே உளபொருளாம் சத்தியமாம் அச்சுரூபம் மகத்தில் வைப்பான். சித்தத்தின் சாந்தியதே சித்தமாம் முக்தியனில் சித்தத்தின் செய்கையின்றி சித்தியா சித்திகளில் சித்தம் சேர்வாரெங்கன் சித்த கலக்கம் தீர் முக்தி சுகம் தோய்வார் மொழி. சித்தத்தின் சாந்தியதே சித்தமாம் முக்தியனில் சித்தத்தின் செய்கையின்றி சித்தியா சித்திகளில் சித்தம் சேர்வாரெங்கன் சித்த கலக்கம் தீர் முக்தி சுகம் தோய்வார் மொழி. Namo Ramana. By Bhagavan's grace, on this, the Advent day, we have come up to verse number 16, the penultimate verse in the Adhikara Prakaranam, indicating what are the qualities we need to meditate on and have while embarking on the practice of Atma-Ucharam taught by Bhagavan. We have covered Idivudal Yanennal Ihandiduga, that is the searching or seeking of the Supreme Truth along with great attachment to the body. He is like trying to cross a river with crocodile as one's boat. So, verse number 12 in the Adhikara Prakaranam, the first verse, it alerted us that we can't have attachment to the body and seeking of the deathless spirit at the same time. Then the next two verses highlighted the same, that Dehatma Bhavamaral Dehatma Bhavamaral is Dhanam Tavam Velvi, all kinds of practices, ethical practices and practices of spirituality, all amount to one thing, that is that I am the body thought has to be eliminated. And the four margas, Vinayam, Vibhakti, Vyoga, Ajnanam, Vinayavai Yarkan Raindidale. For whom are these to inquire is the four paths. For whom is karma, for whom is vibhakti, viyoga and ajnana. To inquire thus, so there too the I thought is targeted. So those were two verses which alert us. Then we came to Siddhis. The verse number 15 was not knowing that one path, the Ishvara Shakti, is activating everything in the cosmos, in creation, to say that I will attain these siddhis, these great powers. He is like a lame person saying that if I am made to stand up on these crutches, I will go and single-handedly annihilate the hordes of enemies standing outside the gates of our fortress. That kind of foolish claim it is, when without knowing that one power is running everything, trying to get superpowers. The Siddhis is like that. That was verse number 15. Today it is again on Siddhis. So these two verses are on Siddhis. The last verse, 17th verse, Adhikara Prakaranam, will alert us that we should remember surrender to God, and that is how the Adhikara Prakaranam will end. One verse on not to have attachment to the body, two verses on the focus of I or removal of the I am the body is all kinds of sadhanas, and two verses on non-attachment to siddhis or non-attempt to get to siddhis, and the final on surrender to God. We are today embarking on verse number 16, which is the second caution against trying to get siddhis. Siddhatin Shantiyade Siddhamam Muktiyanil Siddhatin Seigayindri Siddhiya Siddhigadil Sittam Servar Engan Sittak Kalakkam Tir Mukti Sugam Toiva Modi. So we go into Sadhguru Swamigal's the translation. Since peace of mind, Chitta Shanti alone is liberation, Mukti, which is in truth always attained. Siddhamam Muktiyanil. How can those who set their mind upon occult powers, which cannot be attained without activity of the mind, immerse in the bliss of liberation, which is devoid of all turbulence of mind? So that is the verse. The portions are these are two diametrically opposite things. Say Lakshman Sharma sir and Kanakamal, that the seeking of siddhis and the chitta shanti of mukti are diametrically opposite. So if you seek one is automatically you are rejecting as not interested. So that is how they put it. So the verse also begins like that. That Chittatin Shantiyade Siddhama Muktiyanil. What is the ever-present state of liberation underlying everything? It is available along with the Chitta Shanti, with the peace of mind. Then on the other side, the seeking of siddhis definitely involves movement of the mind. That is, how can those who set their mind upon occult powers, which cannot be attained without activity of the mind? In fact, it seems to spiral the activities of the mind into a newer and faster mode, which cannot be attained without activity of the mind. How can they who seek the siddhis immerse in the bliss of liberation, which is nothing but completely devoid of all turbulence of mind? So these are the portions comparing how Chitta Shanti is necessary for Mukti, how Chitta Vritti is necessary for Siddhis, and Siddhis lead to further and further spiraling of the movement of the mind. How can somebody who seeks these powers ever be eligible to immerse himself in that Shanti, which is completely devoid of turbulence of mind? That is the verse. We briefly look at the pointers from Kanakamal. Lakshman Sharma sir's contribution mainly it revolves around that these two are diametrically opposite and one should not seek these siddhis. Kanakamal, of course, goes ahead and says that the Chitta Shanti she describes in two different ways, and interestingly we will find later, if time permits, that some other person also refers to the mukti in this way, and Bhagavan of course refers to this. She refers to the mukti shanti as the self experiencing the self. Arivai ariyum harive porul, or the state of no mind, and the hallmark of the siddhi of mukti is the stilled mind. Then she gives us a beautiful pointer and a command that in this through the self, God is willing to give us everything. God is willing to give us all, including Himself. Now, rejecting that and seeking some special powers for myself is totally immature spiritually, she says. When God is willing to offer everything, practically whatever there is yours, says Bhagavan, including me, and we reject that and seek some particular powers for this ego, that is totally spiritually immature. And she quotes Bhagavan, and Bhagavan there in the quotation says that neither the true Bhakta nor the Jnani will seek siddhis, because the true Bhakta sees only his Ishtadevata everywhere, and the true Jnani sees only his self everywhere. So therefore, the siddhis which involve the other are absolutely not sought by them. However, he puts a rider, however, siddhis follow them. Siddhis follow the ones automatically, those who are abiding in the self or are totally surrendered to the self. These are the pointers from Kanakamai, that the Chitta Shuddhi or Chitta Shanti is the self looking at itself, then no mind, whereas the Siddhis involve movement of the mind. Then she gives the pointer that by offering the Atma behind the ego, God is giving us everything everywhere. Now, rejecting that to seek Siddhi for the particular ego, which has to go to get the self, to get some particular powers for the ego, is highly spiritually immature, says Kanakumar. And she goes ahead to quote Bhagavan, who says, neither a true devotee or Bhakta nor the Jnana Margi or Jnani will ever care for Siddhis, because the Jnani will see only himself in everything, the Bhakta will see only his Ishta everywhere. Now we come to looking at how we have meditated over this verse over the week with various interactions that have come during the day. What I try to do is when there are interactions in the message groups or with me over phone with somebody, I try to relate to that to the verse, and any of the pointers that we get for the contents of the verse, I try to note down, and we are going through that. That is Chitta Shanti really the practical thing that is required in this world. We get to know that when we look at what happens when we are in troubled times, when our mind is in a troubled state, immediately the mind goes to cause and effect and goes into a frenzy or a determination mode that hereafter I should do this or hereafter I should not do that. Now, let us for a moment look at that aspect, which is the usual movement of the mind. Bhagavan is saying, even there, the Chitta Shanti is the key. Now, how does Chitta Shanti work is that when we immediately override that pressure, that nervousness, or that depression with a thought, hereafter I will not do this, or hereafter I will do this. By that strong thought, what we do is we overcome the experience of that particular action of nervousness or depression by the going into the future. Whereas Bhagavan, what he says is that inquire for whom is the nervousness, for whom is this act of feeling depressed. What happens there actually is that when we go to Chitta Shanti, our mind completely experiences that particular event without any residue, without any leaving or without any lulling. We completely experience that and take it to the self. In that way, there is a complete learning about that experience itself. without postponing that I will learn about it here afterwards, And that Chitta Shanti there, it is a full education. It's not that it is a running away from right action in future. It is a full education of that particular experience without running away. And we see that in Devi Kalotram, we are told that Chittam Siridasaya Samsara, that the vagaries of the likes and dislikes, the desires and the hatred start the moment the mind moves a little bit. Therefore, we find that Chitta Shanti is what Bhagavan says, even in the practical aspect of living, we completely experience the whatever is the thing, the feeling that is pushing us to say hereafter we will do or we will not do. Now, this particular aspect is discussed with Kishore Mashurwala from the ashram from Kishorilal Mashurwala, president of Gandhi Seva Sangh. He asks interestingly that in the Gandhi's ashram in Sabarmati, they follow that the youngsters who join take up the vow, the sankalpa, which is what we are discussing earlier. The sankalpa that we will hereafter adopt brahmacharya, and Kishorilal he asks Bhagavan, some young men take the vow of brahmacharya without knowing its full implications. When they find it difficult to carry it out in practice, they seek our advice. Now, Bhagavan earlier says, in the case of true brahmacharya, these questions will not arise. By that, Bhagavan means when you are in the Chitta Shanti, in that quietude of the self, then that is true brahmacharya. True brahmacharya is abiding in the Brahman, abiding in the source of the I. Then, if a doubt comes, what we have to do there? We have to go back to brahmacharya. The worship of the Brahman is self-inquiry. What we have to do? Who is the one who has arisen out of the source? By asking for whom is this thought, we should go back to the source. In the case of true brahmacharya, this doubt will not arise, says Bhagavan. However, Mashurwala continues. Now, what do we suggest to these people that they take a sankalpa and later on find it difficult to carry on? Bhagavan gives the clue. They need not take a vow, but they can try it without the vow. So that sankalpa part, that hereafter I will do like this or I will not do like this, Bhagavan says, we need not take that sankalpa, but probably surrendering to the Guru or to the Ishta and Nimniche. Like that we can take and practice whatever is the sadhana to be practiced, says Bhagavan. The pointer there is that even more important than a vow taken for an entire period of life, even more important than that is the Chitta Shanti which is available, is the pointer I wanted to make there. That Chitta Shanti is the immediate action of going into the source of the I, rather than the I taking a sankalpa for the future. Now, why is the next point is Siddhamam Mukti Anil. Siddhamam Mukti Anil means Bhagavan says this Chitta Shanti Mukti is ever attained. Is ever attained. That means it is not like the siddhis which you are going to attain. So the key difference that Bhagavan makes between mukti and the siddhis that we have to understand is the mukti or the Chitta Shanti which allows us to rest in mukti is not attained. It is always present. Therefore, it is not lost. That which is gained by the ego will be lost by the ego. That which is present as the substrate of the ego, which is not a gain, cannot be lost by the ego because it is not possessed by the ego. And when the ego goes, when the primary, the raising of the Chitta Ashanti, when that goes as the I being erased, then that ever-present, the ever-present self reveals itself. So that is the key point of saying Siddhamam Mukti, that it is not that Mukti is not something that is attained and that will be lost. Now, we in the course of discussions, what happened was there were some current behavioral psychology theories which show that which give us a clue as to the paramartha nature of the chitta shanti, that there are directions that the psychology is not very far away. It is pointing that it is also headed towards chitta shanti rather than overworking of the chitta, because the behavioral psychology now finds that those children who have had the ability to what they call as to postpone their or to delay their gratification are the ones who are really capable of doing things also in the world. That is the test that they give us. They keep some nice eatables in front of them and they check whether the children can wait till others start, which is one of the instructions given to them. And they find that those children who are consistently capable of doing that, they slowly develop the ability to look at themselves, to look at their impulses, to look at their anger, to look at their reaction to the situation, and be available or continue their sadhana and not break the sadhana because of their own uprising. This they have found. With that knowledge of behavioral psychology, we can clearly understand what Bhagavan is equipping us in the observation of the rise of the Nanen Ring Edumidum Nadi in the source where the I does not arise. Nanudiyad Ullanile, Namaduva Ullanile, Nanudikum Sthanamade, Nadamal Nanudiya Tannilappai Sarvadevan, Saramal Nanudiya Tannilayil Nirpadevan Satru. That is, without seeking the source of the I, how to abide in the Chitta Shanti or the Mukti is the teaching of Bhagavan there. Now, practically speaking, what happens in the delayed gratification is that to some extent, those children are able to look at the rising of their ego and look at it and wait for the parents' instruction, and that process of the vasanas rising and pushing us into action is completely looked, and the Nandakumar element in it, the ego element in it, in the rising of the vasanas is completely erased in Atma Vicharam. That is the Siddhi of Mukti, says Bhagavan. That, and by erasing the ego, by erasing what we call as Nandakumar there, it is not that something new is attained. The ever-present self reveals itself, and if we don't understand this, if we don't understand that the Chitta Shuddhi takes us to the source where the self is awaiting, then the second rule of Upadesha Saram, the second shlokam, Kriti Mahodadau Patana Karanam Phalamashashvatam Gati Nirodhakam comes, which immediately becomes applicable to all siddhis. We can see that if we don't understand that Karturajnaya Prapyate Param Karma Kim Param Karma Tajjadam, if we don't understand that rule, that one power which was mentioned in verse 15, that Kartu, based on his order only, anything happens in this world without knowing that if we do, it is like a lame man claiming that he will win the fortress back from the enemies. In this verse, he says, Bhagavan says that if you don't understand that these two are diametrically opposite, the Mukti Sukham is due to Chitta Shanti and the Siddhis are due to the Chitta Ashanti or the working of the Chitta, which is what we are going to see next, where Bhagavan is asked, can we, will it necessarily mean that the siddhis lead us to chitta ashanti. Asks one of the questioners in talks, a Swiss lady, Mrs. JCS Riddick, asked, does self-realization imply occult powers also? Bhagavan says, the self is the most intimate and eternal being, whereas siddhis are foreign. The powers are sought by the mind, which must be kept alert, whereas the self is realized when the mind is destroyed. The powers manifest only when there is the ego. The ego makes you aware of others, and in its absence, there are no others to be seen. The self is beyond the ego and is realized after the ego is eliminated. The elimination of the ego makes one unaware of others. How can the question of others arise, and where is the use of occult powers for a self-realized being, says Bhagavan. How these are diametrically opposite, and how the siddhis will be a clear jump into the area that's diametrically opposite, and that leads to chitta ashanti more and more. We can see through the example of a siddha who comes to Bhagavan. I think we have shared this while discussing Ulladu Narpadu. And the limitation of siddhi also is revealed in this incident. It appears that a siddha who had this mantra shakti to convert base metal into gold, he had come into the ashram, and he made this claim to Bhagavan that I can do this, can you also do this? You are a Siddha Purusha, can you also convert brass into gold? And Bhagavan, instead of pursuing that line, and he must have been meritorious in some way, because he says, okay, you can do it, can you do one show? And the Siddha, he takes a brass coin from someone, chants that mantra which has its potency through the ego which has developed that Shakti, and there is a change. The brass coin becomes gold, and he shows very proudly, and Bhagavan says, can you do it again? And the Siddha says, of course, the mantram is ever active. Then in Bhagavan's Sannidhi, what happens, though it is not narrated so, my feeling is that the egos there, the ego directly goes into the source, becomes weak. That is why many questioners who come to Bhagavan report that their whole set of questions which they had in mind vanishes. Now, this happens even today in Bhagavan's Sannidhi. You go with some idea there, those ideas will vanish. Similarly, the Siddha is not able to raise his ego and hold the mantra. So obviously, the next coin that he holds remains what it is, and he realizes that the real Siddhi is not to get this wealth or to get this change one metal into another. It is only the Atma Shakti which arises from the source, which is Atma Shanti or the self. Now we come to the point how the Kanakamal quotes Bhagavan, where Bhagavan says these siddhis follow the great bhakta and the jnani, and how do they remain in the self? So the practical aspect is we don't look at the siddhi at all. It is only the self that is the key, and that has become natural. So what others call siddhi to the jnani, it has not at all happened, and to the great devotee, it has happened by God's grace. It is all totally God's. Now we can get a feel of this by one description of the Namaskaram accepted by Purandaradasar and Namaskaram accepted by Bhagavan, how they describe. When Purandaradasar is done pronounced by a group of people who take him to be the godly person, Then he very reverentially and humbly shows the hand to the Vittala's Vigraha behind him, that all these pranams are offered directly to Vittala only. I am not there at all. My being is not separate there. I am totally not present. All these pranams are offered there. That is the explanation he gives. In Bhagavan, the same question is asked: how is it that you speak of Advaitam and accept all these namaskaras given to you? And Bhagavan, in the Jnani that he is, he describes, can't you see that even before they start to do their namaskara, I have fallen at their feet. My namaskarams are already made. That means the observation in which the nanudiyadulla nilai, the I does not arise, is the sarvabhuta namaskaram. The namaskaram to all beings who are the manifestations of that Ishvara. The jnani is ever doing namaskaram. He is in nitya namaskara sthiti. That is what Bhagavan describes. That can't you see that even before they start doing the namaskaram, I have already done my pranams. I am already in namaskaram sthiti. These two descriptions give us a clue as to what is to come. How the two descriptions of the siddhis being displayed by the great ones is described by Bhagavan. Bhagavan himself does that hard task for us in talk 20 and 597, because we will get a doubt that plenty of siddhis are displayed in Bhagavan's Sannidhi, and plenty of siddhis or miracles are reported to those who have gone through Bhagavan's Satcharita. As they read more and more devotees' accounts, it is nothing but miraculous. In fact, slowly we stop finding anything normal. Everything, each devotee is saved in a miraculous way. Now, how can these coexist? Bhagavan gives us a clue that you should not aim for the siddhis even which have come in Bhagavan's presence. You need not and you should not. They are automatically there in their presence. But how they display that is also told by Bhagavan. In talk 20, I think Ivan Vance asks Bhagavan that Jesus did so many siddhis. He cured so many of their physical illness, lame and blindness. All those siddhis, are they not necessary? Are they not to be sought by us? Then Bhagavan gives him a word that Jesus would not have known, he says. He would not have known that he is now employing the siddhis. Now that is the Bhakti Marga of Purandaradasa. That he does not know, he does not want to know anyone doing anything special to him. It is all to the God. So the Bhakta is always seeing the Ishta. That's what Bhagavan told us. Bhakta is always seeing the Ishta. In the Sannidhi of the Ishta, whatever happens, happens. For others it is Siddhi. For the Bhakta, it is only the Ishta. He can only see the Ishta. Whatever happens is only the Ishta that is being seen there. And to the Jnani, in talk 597, Bhagavan gives the Jnani's perspective that the Jnani can consciously take up siddhis, for the purpose of helping others to come into Chitta Shanti, to come to Mukti. That is the interesting part. Last week we had read an account from Nisargadatta Maharaj, where he says that the Jnani can ride the tigers of the good and bad, the desires and the aversions, so that others can come out of it. Now, that is told by Bhagavan in talk 597, that Chudala takes on the great powers. Akka is the better narrator of this event, but suffice that I point out that she has attained enlightenment and her the one whom she is married to, the king, he has to go through penance of 16, 17 years in the forest, not realizing that a jnani is available at home because he can see only the image of his wife. Then, knowing that when his meditation is ready, through her jnana shakti, she is able to know now he is on the verge of self-realization. She uses extraordinary occult powers to convert herself into another form, go and give him Upadesha. And that story is narrated by Bhagavan in detail in Talk 597 to show how Bhagavan might have used all those siddhis consciously for the purpose of liberating or showing the path to liberation to others. And F.H. Humphrey says the jnani takes on these siddhis as a matter of self-sacrifice. What he means by that is that when one can abide in the shanti, but for the sake of the others, he takes up those tasks so that in their language and in their knowledge levels, it can be taught. The path to chitta shanti or stillness of the eye is taught by them. For that purpose, they may be ready to do the self-sacrifice of learning those siddhis and teaching them. That is what Bhagavan says. So that is how the jnani or the Purna Bhakta. The Purna Bhakta says, I don't know. You all say it is all it is all Sri Krishna doing. It is all Sri Rama doing. Now that is how the jnani and the realized one still have the occult powers. In the Bhakta's case, he says unconsciously, and in the jnani's case, consciously, but with complete detachment and a natural abundance in the self. Now comes the point that in the previous shloka, the ordainer was brought, and in this shloka, the ordainer is not present, but one is cautioned against special skills directly because it will lead to chitta ashuddhi or movement of the mind. Now, in the previous shloka, it was said everything happens as per the ordainer's order, without knowing that you trying to say that I will try to get this and do these things. When everything is done by the engine, I will carry this load in this compartment and that load in that compartment. Anyway, train is carrying. So that is like a lame person is what was the caution there. Now, can we look at that in a predetermined situation also? Why is it that the ego or the individual can never know what is predetermined? If God has predetermined what is to happen, then can the individual know that? There are two pointers to that because all siddhis amount to that only. If you take today's great ones, those who try to predict where the economies are going, where the human life is going, what will happen to nuclear war, all these are siddhis trying to predict what is going to happen in each one's ways, using various skills they try to do. It practically amounts, if given the umbrella of predetermination, all siddhis amount to only knowing what is going to happen. Now, can we ever know? Can the individual ever know what is going to happen? Therefore, that siddhi, which includes in its bracket all other siddhis that we have or we try to get, it cannot happen. We come from the jnana marga that the Atma Shakti, the Spurana, is beyond the triputi of knower, knowing and known. The Atma Shakti is shining as I, without the I know that. Therefore, what the Atma Shakti is giving in its sannidhi, the individual trapped in the triputi can never know. That is one way of looking. One interesting pointer we get from science, from a book from Stephen Hawking. Why I keep referring to science is that our children, whom we met a few minutes ago in the Advent Day celebrations, they all are going through the normal gamut of human learning. Can we introduce the who am I to them, which is their path to coming to God, coming to Bhagavan, was the seeking from RMCL. So under that umbrella, is it investigated by science in some direction, at least towards who am I is pointed, towards Bhagavan's teaching is pointed. There is an interesting suggestion from Stephen Hawking that in that article, the book is called Black Holes and Baby Universes, and the article is called Is Everything Predetermined? Is Everything Predetermined? This is a talk in 1990 he has given in one of the Oxford colleges. And the conclusion is that yes, everything is predetermined, but no one can know it what is predetermined. Hence, it might as well not have been. That is the conclusion he gives. That everything is predetermined. He gives reasons for that. However, no one can know what is predetermined. Hence, it might as well not have been his conclusion. But the point here that I am trying to make is that we can never know. He arrives it in an interesting way. That we can never know what is predetermined, because he says, suppose we know about the future, then we can change the present. The example he gives is the horse racing. Suppose you know which horse is going to win. When somebody knows that 100% this is the future event, this horse is going to win, then you will borrow this, that, and put all the bets into that. Then the present odds itself changes. What are the present odds? Because of your knowledge. So the rule of predetermination can be broken if predetermination can be known. If predetermination is known by the individual, then the very rule of predetermination can be broken. It can be very easily understood, he says. So that also completely prevents us from trying to get any siddhi about which all boil down to trying to know what God has decided for us. If we look at previous verse and this verse together, any siddhi implies trying to know what God has designed for us. And the finding by the Triputi to Atma Shakti, as well as from, he calls it as self-referencing systems, where knowing the future, you will alter the present, which will undermine the rule of predetermination, because what is present, if you can change, then it is no more predetermined, isn't it? So therefore he says, no individual at any point can accurately know what is going to happen. With that, we come to the last point, that how Bhagavan says that how is it that a jnani like Bhagavan or Periyawal or King Janaka get to act like a normal person in day-to-day activity, or head a religious group, or even more challengingly lead a country like Janaka, which involve mental activities? How is it that the jnani or the bhakta is able to do normal activities which require, forget about cities, normal activities which require mental activities? Bhagavan gives us the clue there, that the question in talk 597 is from a reference to Maurice Friedman telling, I went into Samadhi for 1 hour and came out of it. I went into Samadhi and came out of it. And Bhagavan says, his basis is still in effort. Therefore, he is connecting effort to the Samadhi. Therefore, since it is effort-based Samadhi, it was phalam ashashvatam. The effort also is limited. The Samadhi also is limited. He came out of it. So therefore, whenever our sadhana says a connection between our effort and the quietude, till then it is effort-based quietude and it is not real Samadhi. In real Samadhi, Bhagavan says, the Samadhi is effortless. The Samadhi is natural. Therefore, when the natural Samadhi is experienced, is our very nature, it is not against the activities of normal life. That is, the word Bhagavan uses is, it is not inconsistent with the ordinary activities of life. The natural samadhi, so irrespective of whether your activity is designed for you means the apparent individual, is of the nature of Bhagavan or Periperival or Janaka or a simple cook in the ashram, you abide in the self, then the activities designed for you can go on, because you are resting naturally in the self, in that samadhi sthiti. I call it as table turning. That is, till that point of sattvapati happens, we are in the temporarily going into quietude. Even somebody who has started self inquiry will be experiencing quietude, though they may not be able to record it. Each time you ask, you let a thought go and ask, who am I? We are still in the mind. So there is an experience of stillness, but it might not be palpable enough. As practice goes, the gap, the abiding in the gap, it increases, but still there is the connection with the effort. Therefore, our nature is still of jiva, the effort maker, and the silence is a sadhana. Whereas the tables are turned when the silence becomes our nature and the efforts come and go. The tables come, that is the point where the Jivan Mukti, the Jiva Bhava goes and the Jivan Mukti happens. In that point, whatever the activity is designed for the individual, it does not affect the Chitta Shanti or the Mukti Sukham. Now that is the state that Bhagavan wants us to be. We'll be concluding the discussion on Siddhis with these two verses. The next verse is on the Ishvara's nature and how we need surrender as one of the requirements for proceeding in Atma Vicharam or the practice of Bhagavan's teachings. So that will be the next verse. In these two verses, Bhagavan is cautioning us against special siddhis. We can take it that in today's world, any special skills or special abilities of the intellect that we develop, they are all bondages. Uh, 2 days back, Venkateshji and I we were discussing when we develop certain special skills in the intellect. Let's say I reported to him, I had a phase where I used to make some clever remarks over the situation. Now, without knowing that the making of clever remarks had become impulsive or compulsive, it was merely a vasana and inattentively coming and sitting on me. But with practice of Atma Vicharam, what happens is we are able to see. Now, when someone is talking, oh, this is what is happening. Now I am having this impulse to cleverly say something. So that keeps us the Nanudiya Dullanilai, it takes us back and makes us understand the far reaching importance of being still. There is no comparison at all of any amount of cleverness and being still. In fact, the highest cleverness that one can have is to be still. That when we understand whatever is the vasana or the impulse that we have, the highest cleverness, the highest ability to be funny, the highest ability to pun, all these are vasanas. But dynamically, when we are aware of that, the rays of the eye, we are able to see we are bound by that impulse, and one is free only in the chitta shanti of being at the source. And there is absolutely no comparison between any achievement with the ego and the ego free state. These are diametrically opposite, says Bhagavan. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit for practice of Atma Ucharam for 10 minutes. Revathi, you will set the time for us.
Yes, Sankash.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanasramam.
Namo Ramana. In this verse, by Bhagavan's grace, Bhagavan not only has told us about not focusing on siddhis, but has turned the emphasis, as Nandakumarji pointed out to us, on peace, on shanti. Well, actually, Sadhuvam Swami has a song where he says, Aatralin Chinnam Perum Shanti. He says that the true symbol of Shakti or Siddhi is greatest peace. And Per Amaidin Chinnam Per Atral. And he says that the greatest peace is the greatest power. So, that is how Sadhu Om Swami describes that peace is power. And peace alone is power. Peace alone is true power. Then we have in Ramana Gita, in chapter 10 on society, Yoganatha asks Bhagavan, some say that peace is better and some say that power is required. Which is good for society? He is asking from the perspective of society in that chapter. So Bhagavan says, peace is supreme for the individual. First he says that. He doesn't answer the society question first. First he says, peace is supremely required for the individual. Power is needed to raise the society to a higher level. Once the society is improved through power, it must be established in peace. So again, the peace is supreme. That's what Bhagavan points out to us. And Nandakumarji also said very beautifully how the jnani sometimes as a concession or out of not a conscious concession, but out of the natural concession of the karuna, which Ganapati Muni says, na karuna guna for Bhagavan, out of that natural compassion, some siddhis are exhibited or revealed. We find in the lives of some of the jnanis, they are more frequently and evidently revealed, and in some others, they are probably hidden most of the time and revealed once in a way, very rarely. Bhagavan would reveal his superhuman or divine nature rarely only. But then there are occasions. See, there is an occasion where Bhagavan has travelled astrally to go and bless Ganapati Muni. And he says, perhaps I thought maybe this is the way the Siddhas travel. I thought maybe that is the way. Because I found that I was moving on some path of light. And I was suddenly there. And he has also appeared. So he was in Tiruvatiyur, and then later Muni asked him about it, and then he described how he was in Virupaksha cave and he felt that his body was moving, and he reached Tiruvatiyur and he was walking down a street and he reached his Ganapati temple and he blessed Muni and came. And of course, many people have seen Bhagavan wherever they were. We have the instance of Poonjaji seeing him and inviting him to come to Tiruvannamalai. So in the case of the Muni, Bhagavan was conscious. In some other instances, he will not even say, was it so? He may say. So it has happened. But this has happened naturally out of karuna. And there may be sometimes a simple incident also, like a girl, a shepherdess. She lost her baby goat. I mean, it fell down a sort of a deep pit on Arunachala near Skandashram. It was not retrievable. It's not possible for anybody to climb down or climb up. But she's seeing her crying. In a trice, Bhagavan had gone down and brought the goat kid up and returned it to her. And how is that possible? So these are some instances, and these are there. But then, when Bhagavan was told, or requested, or prayed to by the devotees to cure his own sarcoma, and when Muruganar Swami also told told him, prayed to him, Bhagavan, if you wish, you can cure your sarcoma. You can cure it. Then Bhagavan asked him, oh, புத்தியை வச்சு சித்தி பண்ணி இந்த உடம்பை சரிப்படுத்திக்கணுங்கிறா. He said, you want me to use the mind, then perform some siddhi, and then bring about a change. So he would not want to make any change whatsoever in any of these circumstances. And he would very sweetly say, I did not ask for this disease to come, that I must ask for it to go. So see, that's such a beautiful statement he makes. I did not ask for it to come. Then why should I ask for it to go? There is no need for changing anything whatsoever, is what Bhagavan would indicate when it came to him personally, revealing to us what is the perfect equipoise of the Jnani. And in a very beautiful clue which Nandakumarji gave us today, this is about this, though this may appear out of our realm, this kind of actions or siddhis, the very fact of moving away from peace is a seeking of siddhi. That was the clue which was given to us, a very important clue which was given to us, that whenever any situation is faced by us, the question which comes to us is, what is the action that we must take to meet with that situation? What must we do? Of course, there may be action required, but it is that the mind rises immediately to action, or sometimes even worse, to reaction. That's all right. But we only merely react, we get angry, we get upset. Otherwise, if we are slightly less reactive, we may think, okay, what am I supposed to do in this situation? Even then, I think of doing. I don't think of being as the answer. I don't think of the Shanti as the answer. Later, the Shakti can manifest automatically from the Shanti, is what we have been told today very beautifully. It can act automatically, it can come. But we don't look at that as the answer. We don't think immediately, let me just be. In Ramana Pada Pancharatnam, the 5 selections from Shivaprakasham Pillai's Padamalai, lines which Srimati Sulochana Natarajan has chosen are, Tanai Vittal Tuyar Pom Yennum Shantan Padam Vargave. Shantan Padam is the one which is given over there, the epithet to Bhagavan, the one who is ever peaceful, who says, if you just wait, when a difficulty comes, leave the difficulty to itself. Let it take care of itself. It will automatically dissolve. Meaning to say that I need not rise as an actor. I need not rise as a doer. Actions may happen because that is a part of the law. That is a part of the law, that actions will happen. Bhagavan was active. He was not physically inactive. But he has not wanted to start anything. Another nama for him by Jagadishwara Shastri in Sahasrama is Sarvarambha Parityagi. He's not wanting to initiate anything. He doesn't want to initiate anything. He's not thinking I may change it. And very beautiful examples were given to us from science. It reminded me, I do not know the source, but I was told about a book, about a novel, which is the story of that novel is that the set of characters in that novel are told that whatever happened to them in the past 10 years is going to repeat itself in their lives. Whatever happened in the past 10 years is going to repeat itself and they don't have a choice. See, the point is that though they know it is going to happen, they will not be able to alter it in any way. Now, how did that change them? What did they do to it? So, this is a perspective, right? Even if I know what is going to happen, if I cannot in any way change it, then what will be my perspective to that? What will be my angle of vision? And this is what Bhagavan asks us to remain in when he tells Agagamma, everything is destined. Okay. Therefore, Adalin Maunamai Irikkai Nandra. That is the key. It is not that things are going to happen, so what can I do? Adalin Maunamai Irikkai Nandra. That is the peace. That is the peace in which Bhagavan is telling us we need to be established, and he repeatedly says that is the only siddhi and that is ever available to us. It is possible for us to remain in that. That alone is possible. Everything else is not in our hands. And because that alone is possible, if we achieve it, we would have attained something. We would have got some siddhi. If we do not do it, we would not have achieved anything. Because when we don't do something which is possible, then how can you say we have achieved anything? Everything else that has not happened through us. It has happened through a divine plan. So there is nothing which has been achieved at all by anything else that we have done. That's why Bhagavan says, Tannai aridalindri pinnai edarihilan. If you don't know yourself, what is there to be known? Even to be known, forget about action. And this was very beautifully brought out to us today in a very simple and sweet manner with different examples given to us by Nandakumarji. And I think it's a very, very important aspect of our practice that every time we rise as doers, we understand this itself is a seeking of siddhi. This itself is a seeking of siddhi, and let us question that through self-inquiry and try to abide as being our primary duty. Hold on to that peace, and everything else will automatically spring from that, and that will be the greatest. Everything flowers automatically, says Bhagavan. And that is what we see in the lives of the great ones. Anyone who is abiding in the self, we see the beauty of surrender, because the events do not matter. They are not of significance or consequence, because the greatest has been achieved already. That's why Bhagavan also says, Krityam asti kim swasthitim yataha. Once if one is abiding in the self, what else remains to do? He says it in Ulladu Narpadu also. So that is by Bhagavan's grace, that peace is the gift which he is holding out to us and is opening out to us by his immense grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Shivaya.
Ramananjali, Ramananjali, Ramananjali.